everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
Naruto, from Ninja Academy to an Early Grave. Chapter 183 to 194, Chapter 183, The Bizarrely Missing Chunin Squad. 1651 words. Children in the shinobi world really are different, like they've got fertilizer in their bodies or something. On Earth in his previous life, a 1-year-old baby might just have learned to walk and say a few simple words. Here, kids were already running wild all over the house. Barely a month or two after Naruto's birthday, he had already begun to show signs of being a little troublemaker. It was easy to imagine he wouldn't grow up to be well-behaved. The difference was that, in the original timeline, his childhood pranks were meant to attract attention from the people around him. Now, with both parents alive, if he caused trouble in the future, it would most likely be to draw the attention of his Hokage father. You could say he was already walking down the path of Boruto-sama, his future son. Not every child was like Higashino Makoto, who had the soul of an adult from a young age, sparing Higashino Megumi from ever experiencing the hardship of raising a child. Uzumaki Kushina, on the other hand, was currently on the verge of losing her hair from stress. Every day, when she saw household items accidentally broken, she would clench her fists tightly. This was completely different from what her close friends Megumi and Mikoto had told her. They said that when Higashino Makoto and Itachi were young, they had always been quiet and well-behaved children. So why couldn't her son be like that? If Naruto weren't still so young, he'd probably be getting beaten 3 times a day. Fortunately, Namake's Minato was a gentleman. Otherwise, Naruto's future situation might have turned into a full-on tag team beating from both parents. Time passed in a flash and December arrived. The year Konoha 52 was about to come to an end. That morning, Makoto arranged for the 3 members of the Hay-8 squad to take over the Shadow Guard duties from Takuma's squad. At present, Kakashi's team had withdrawn from their duty of protecting the 4th Hokage's family. They had been broken up and reorganized, then assigned to ANBU missions. After all, Kakashi was a genius who had been promoted to Jonin at the age of 12. He was now serving as a squad captain in the newly formed ANBU. The protection of the 4th Hokage was now entirely handled by the 7 members of the Shadow Guard. As for the 3rd Hokage, he was only serving as acting Hokage, so there was no need to establish a separate Shadow Guard. His usual security was arranged by his eldest son. Hiruzen planned that once he officially retired, he would also have his eldest son withdraw from ANBU, return to being a regular ninja, and ideally work a bit harder to give him a grandchild. Being able to hold a grandchild at home after retirement was, for most shinobi, who rarely met a peaceful end, an almost perfect old age. Since the 4th Hokage had temporarily retired at home, the Shadow Guard's duties were extremely idle and boring, perfect for slacking off and training. Makoto's arrangement for them was to use his own experience as reference and carry out yin-yang or elemental chakra training within their bodies. These precise and complicated operations could be done while sitting quietly, making them excellent for improving chakra control. He called it static practice. Correspondingly, physical training and combat drills were dynamic practice. Shinobi training had always followed these 2 paths. Makoto had merely separated them and summarized them using the concepts of stillness and movement. After the Hay-8 squad left, Makoto also planned to find a place to slack off and train. At that moment, Gekko Komomi came looking for him. At present, all ANBU members had been personally selected and organized by Gekko Komomi, who served as the new ANBU commander and was usually quite busy. As for the remnants of the old ANBU, after being purged by Obito, they were now under the responsibility of Sarutobi Hiruzen's eldest son. The 3rd Hokage intended for them to accompany him through his final term before withdrawing from ANBU and returning to the light. Yo, sensei. Rare to see you come over, miss me. Makoto joked. Sorry, Makoto. I'm a normal person. I'm not interested in handsome boys, Komomi replied jokingly before getting straight to the point. There's something I need your help with. A few days ago, a Chunin squad from the village went missing after carrying out an escort mission. Their status is currently unknown. They defected. Do you want me to hunt them down? Makoto asked. In the years before and after the war, it was common for rogue ninja to appear in large numbers across the major villages. Makoto himself had carried out such pursuit missions in ANBU. No. 2 members of the squad have families in Konoha, and ANBU has investigated their usual behavior. The likelihood of defection is very low. More importantly, this is already the second case of an entire squad going missing recently. After investigation, ANBU hasn't been able to find any traces at all. 2 cases already. Then it looks like someone is targeting Konoha, specifically hunting ninja on missions outside the village. The opponent must be very strong and clean enough that even ANBU can't track them. That's our assessment as well. So you want me to go? But for something like this, shouldn't you send a specialist tracker? Makoto asked. We did. But all suitable candidates are currently on missions and unavailable. If we wait too long, whatever little traces remain may disappear. So I've assigned the most recent case to Takuma's squad. However, considering they're still young and not very strong in combat, I need you to join them, protect them, and prevent the enemy from targeting them in the shadows. Takuma's squad was indeed specialized in tracking, but Makoto still found it odd. Don't they have Hayoma-senpai leading them? Just like you, he's recently become independent. Jonin are busy, you can't expect them to lead teams all the time. Alright, I understand, sensei. I'll leave it to you, Kumomi said, handing over the relevant information. Before leaving, he added, oh, and don't show yourself. Just follow behind them. If the enemy sees you, they might not dare show themselves. After all, you're now known across the shinobi world as the Hellwind Oni, even the usually unreasonable Kumogaku fears you. You've got quite the reputation. Your bounty on the underground exchange is pretty high too. Makoto. What was wrong with this shinobi world? Were they copying the neighboring world or something? If you didn't have a bounty on your head, you'd be too embarrassed to go outside. In a forest along the western road of the Land of Fire, Hyuga Takuma, Abure Muta, and Inazuka Miko, along with their dog, were following the trail of their target, heading toward the Land of Rivers. There hadn't been any rain recently, which was good news for scent-based trackers like their dog and for certain special insects. Makoto followed them in secret. Not long after leaving Konoha, Takuma's team paused at a fork in the road before continuing westward at full speed into the Land of Rivers. The Chunin squad that had gone missing had last been escorting a merchant and his goods back to the Land of Rivers. Outside the merchant's house, the dog Rocky said, "There's still a bit of the target's scent inside." Muta nodded. Then it seems they completed the mission successfully. If nothing happened here, it matches our earlier deduction. Takuma said, "Let's go inside and ask the client." Inside the merchant's home, the 3 questioned the employer and several workers who had accompanied the convoy. All answers indicated that they hadn't encountered any rogue ninja along the way. They had only run into a group of bandits within the Land of Rivers, but those had been easily dealt with by the Konoha ninja. After completing the mission, the squad had left the Land of Rivers immediately. After gathering the information, Takuma's team quickly turned back. Though they weren't specialized interrogators, they knew some basic genjutsu. Ordinary people had almost no chance of lying in front of them. After they left, Makoto used genjutsu himself to interrogate the merchant again. The answers were the same. The merchant had no hidden identity, and no reason to target Konoha ninja. That night, Takuma's team returned to the fork near Konoha, and took the other path to continue tracking. They had already noticed earlier that the target had left a fresh scent on this route, suggesting that on their return trip, something had caused them to deviate instead of heading back to Konoha. However, their initial priority had been the merchant in the Land of Rivers, so they only came here after finding nothing there. Following the path for a short distance, they arrived at a bustling town. It was already night, and the town was brightly lit and lively, clearly a place known for entertainment. There were quite a few places like this around Konoha. Inside a hot spring bathhouse in the town, Takuma's team slipped into a private bathing room. From a young and pretty female attendant, Makoto learned that the place offered special services. It seemed the missing Chunin squad had stopped here to relax on their way back. This was normal. Many adult ninja like to unwind after missions. They weren't ascetics, after all. Inside the unused bath, Rocky said, "The target's scent ends here." Muta nodded, agreeing with the dog. Miko looked at the room's interior. This place hasn't been renovated, which means no battle happened here. It doesn't look like the squad encountered a powerful enemy. Takuma frowned, puzzled. But they didn't go anywhere else, and they didn't return to Konoha either. So what you're saying is, 3 living people just vanished into thin air right here. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 184, Chapter 184, Some are troubled, some are pleased. 1,573 words. Muta, although it's unlikely, if they deliberately erased their scent and then quietly left, it could also result in what we're seeing now. Miko, after completing the mission, they didn't return to the village for such a long time. No matter the reason, that's basically no different from defecting. The problem is, 2 of them have family in Konoha, there's no reason for them to defect. Takuma, looks like we'll have to question the owner here and the staff who served them at the time. No need. I've already asked. Takuma was surprised. Huh? Makoto, why are you here? Makoto was wearing a mask, but he hadn't changed his voice. As their friend, the 3 of them recognized him almost immediately. I've been following you the whole time. Rocky, impossible. Why didn't I notice? Makoto, you think your nose is unbeatable or something? Didn't you also fail to track where the missing people went? Rocky. Why was it that this guy's words always cut so deep? Muta, you've been protecting us from the shadows, haven't you? Looks like the higher-ups were worried we might disappear too. That was a standard arrangement. Takuma didn't find it strange and asked Makoto, what did you find out from the bathhouse? According to the attendant who served that bath at the time, the 3 missing people were so exhausted that they fell asleep halfway through their soak. When the staff came back later to check, they were already gone. Since they had paid in advance, the bathhouse didn't look into it further. Aside from Rocky, the others in Takuma's team weren't idiots. They quickly picked up on the inconsistency. Takuma, it was just a normal escort mission, and the opponents were ordinary bandits. How could they be that exhausted? Muta, as ninjas, their vigilance shouldn't be that low. Even near Konoha, there's no way all 3 would fall asleep at the same time. Miko, so that means someone made a move on them in secret, took them elsewhere and killed them. Takuma, so around Konoha, there might be elite enemy ninjas lying in wait, secretly hunting Konoha shinobi. Makoto, are you 3 seriously acting out a deduction drama in front of me? Takuma, Makoto, you think our reasoning is wrong? Not entirely. Like Muta said, a ninja's vigilance isn't that poor. And the war has already ended, sending elite enemy ninjas here to hunt ordinary Konoha Chunin would be extremely risky and completely meaningless. So the one who acted might not be an enemy ninja, but someone from within Konoha. Only a familiar companion could make them lower their guard. Takuma, your analysis makes surprising sense. So now we just need to investigate which Konoha ninjas were in this town at the time. But that's too much work, it's not our task. We just need to submit our tracking results and deductions. Makoto, I asked the bathhouse staff, at the time, the only Konoha ninjas here were the 3 from the missing team. So either a Konoha companion they met in town followed them and made a move, or there was a traitor among the 3, who secretly dealt with their own teammates. That kind is the hardest to guard against. Remember to include that possibility in your report. I won't write a separate one. Takuma, thanks, Makoto. With that, things feel a lot clearer. We'll head back first. After all, you're an ANBU now, it's not convenient for you to return openly with us. Alright, you go ahead. After Takuma's team left, Makoto also departed from the town. He was quite confident in his deduction, because he was working backward from the result. He had already reviewed the missing team's information. 2 of the 3 members had family in Konoha, the remaining one was an orphan. More importantly, that person had served on the Western Front during the early stages of the Third Great Ninja War, and later transferred to the Eastern Front. Coincidentally, the commander of both fronts had been Orochimaru. This person was very likely a die-hard follower of that snake, and even after Orochimaru was sidelined by the third Hokage, he had continued serving him in secret. It had to be understood that Orochimaru and Namikaze Minato shared one thing in common: both were representatives of civilian-born geniuses. Among civilian ninjas, there were plenty who admired them. But after Minato became Hokage, many centrists naturally shifted to support him. Those who still served Orochimaru now undoubtedly possessed extremely high loyalty. To put it in modern terms, Minato's rise to power had unintentionally refined Orochimaru's fanbase. And now, it seemed Orochimaru had finally turned his claws toward Konoha's own. Some things didn't require him to act personally. After all, die-hard fans weren't exactly known for their brains. If their master told them to do something, they would do it. A month passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was a new year again. During this time, no new disappearance cases occurred. The 2 previous incidents had become cold cases. Even if ANBU had suspicions, without evidence, they didn't dare act. After all, the suspect was a war hero, the third Hokage's most beloved disciple. No one wanted to bear the consequences of falsely accusing a hero. They simply submitted their investigation reports to the Hokage's office, and left the rest for the old men to worry about. Orochimaru's laboratories within Konoha were all officially registered. As for the illegal ones outside the village, perhaps because someone had discovered them on the Eastern Front before, they were now built extremely far away and well hidden. Most importantly, Orochimaru never targeted ninjas with complicated backgrounds. He was a smart man, he wouldn't court death. So none of the Konoha ninjas Higashino Makoto knew had come to harm. As for that, Makoto couldn't be bothered to interfere. Let things stir. The dirtier the waters of Konoha became, the harder it would be for Shimura Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen to clean them. Konoha Year 53. In times of peace, Makoto would have just finished his 6th year at the academy this year, graduating in late March and beginning his glorious life as a genin. Unfortunately, his generation were all premature births of war. At a young age, they graduated early, adapted to missions briefly, and were sent straight to the battlefield. By now, they were already seasoned ninjas with 3 years of experience and baptism by war. Many had died on the battlefield or during missions. This was something the younger generation born in peacetime could never imagine. This year, Makoto was 13 by nominal age. After his birthday, he would be 12 in full years. But due to the rich nourishment of white natural energy, he looked no different from a 16 or 17-year-old teenager, living daily under the envious, jealous, and resentful gazes of Hayate and Yamato. As for Yugao, she didn't feel jealousy as a girl, but she had started worrying that Makoto was growing too fast, and might get seduced too early by those curvy older women. Her own body had begun developing as well, but for now she was still just a flat little bud. The poor girl was so troubled she nearly worried her beautiful purple hair into turning white like some kind of white-haired witch. Just like his previous life, the ninja world also had both nominal age and actual age. Before celebrating his own 12th birthday, Makoto first attended another birthday, that of a little one born in March as well, turning 3 years old. This wasn't the infinite Tsukuyomi world, so Tenten was a rich little girl. Her father, Tetsuan, was a well-known ninja tool craftsman in Konoha, and her mother ran a large ninja tool shop. As for the profits of the arms trade, well, everyone understood. Their family had always been wealthy. Tenten's home was quite spacious, though not many people were invited. The Tetsuan family had only invited a limited number of close relatives and friends. This was Makoto's first time attending Tenten's birthday. He had missed the previous two due to other matters. "Hello, Makoto Nizan." Seeing him arrive, little Tenten greeted him politely. Suzun corrected her again, "You should call him sensei." Tenten was obedient and immediately changed her words, "Hello, sensei." Her voice was crisp, her appearance adorable, especially now that, like her mother, she had tied her hair into two buns. She was already beginning to resemble the Tenten from Makoto's memory. "Tenten, be good. Happy birthday. This is your present." After handing over the gift, Makoto said to her mother, "Suzun, there's no need to call me sensei so early." "Huh? No need. I was planning to have her formally take you as her sensei today. Let's wait until her 4th birthday next year for the formal apprenticeship. I'll start teaching her then. After all, I also began training at 4. Starting too early isn't good for the body." "All right, I'll listen to you. You're so capable, what you say must make sense." Makoto was telling the truth. He had started training so early back then because he hadn't yet discovered his cheat, and he knew war was coming. If he didn't train early and make himself stronger, how would he survive the war? But now things were different. The ninja world was mostly at peace. Let these younger kids enjoy a happier childhood instead. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 185, Chapter 185, The Hokage's Judgment. 1,549 words. After Makoto's 12th birthday, time quickly moved into April. It was once again the season for new student enrollment. Just like last year, both generations of Hokage from Konohagakure attended the entrance ceremony. Although Hiruzen still sat in the Hokage's seat, he constantly reminded himself that he was only serving as a temporary Hokage, and thus handed the task of going on stage to encourage the new students over to Minato. From this point alone, Hiruzen wasn't really someone obsessed with power. It was just that, with age, his temperament had softened, he had grown overly attached to the deep bonds formed over many years, even though he knew that his old friend had long since forgotten the original resolve they once shared in protecting Konoha. As members of the 4th Hokage's guard unit, Makoto and the others stood among the teachers behind the podium. Although the guard unit was affiliated with the ANBU, they were different from regular ANBU shinobi. On certain ceremonial public occasions like this, there was no need to wear masks or ANBU uniforms. They represented the younger generation of shinobi, role models meant to inspire the new students to train hard. There weren't many new students this year. With the war over, the Ninja Academy had correspondingly reduced its enrollment size and raised its talent requirements. There were no names Makoto recognized among them. His own cohort had just graduated at the end of last month. Because most talented students had already graduated early during the war, this year's graduates didn't include anyone particularly noteworthy. The only name Makoto recognized was Yumino Irika. This guy had solid fundamentals, but his combat ability was severely lacking. Like many students without outstanding talent, he had stayed the full 6 years before graduating. In fact, that was a good thing. Quite a few students who had talent, but not enough exceptional talent, graduated early and soon died on the battlefield. Even more fortunate was that, thanks to Makoto's intervention, Irika's parents hadn't died during the Night of the Nine Tails. His mother, Yumino Kairi, had only been seriously injured. After recovering and being discharged, she withdrew from active ninja duty and became a full-time housewife, taking care of and educating her son. So now, Irika had both parents alive and a happy family. On that point alone, he already surpassed most Konoha shinobi. Yet it was said that at school he still acted out and played the fool, trying to attract attention from his classmates. Orphans have their own hardships, but having both parents can also mean the hardship of being disciplined from both sides. The Yumino couple were civilian jonin and war heroes. Even when facing the Nine Tails, they had charged to the front lines without hesitation, earning a strong reputation among the village's shinobi. Although they loved their son deeply, they were at a loss regarding Irika's mediocre ninja talent. That was the root of young Irika's troubles, and the reason he constantly acted out in school to draw attention. While Minato was giving his speech to the new students, Makoto sensed a familiar presence approaching from behind. Kuroiwa-sensei, long time no see. Have you finished preparing for the new student intake? Hello, Kuroiwa-sensei. Yugao also greeted him. The person behind them was their former homeroom teacher from the academy, Inoue Kuroiwa. Seeing his former prodigy students, Kuroiwa was delighted. Makoto, Yugao, it's you too. Time really flies, 6 years have passed in the blink of an eye. You and Uchiha Shursui are my most outstanding achievements as a sensei. I really hope that among this year's new students, there'll be geniuses like you again. Makoto smiled. Sensei, if Konoha produced geniuses like me every year, the other villages probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Ha ha ha, that's true. Since you all graduated early, your cohort that graduated last month didn't stand out much. Fortunately, there was still one genius among them. You mean Uchiha Itachi? Yes. The Uchiha clan truly deserves its reputation as the #1 clan in the shinobi world. Almost every graduating class's top student comes from them. Probably only geniuses like you and Hatake Kakashi can suppress Uchiha members of the same generation. Makoto already knew this. Itachi had enrolled last year, but after just 1 year, he graduated together with the 6th-year students. In times of peace, there was no need to graduate early at all. But his teacher, Funino Daikoku, believed that staying in the academy any longer held no value for him. Fugaku didn't object, so no one else could really say anything. It could only be said that this teacher's will of fire was lacking. Didn't he understand that for the children of ninja clans, the real purpose of attending the academy was to build bonds with peers of their age? Time moved into May. Another ninja disappearance case occurred within Konoha. Inside the Hokage building, in one of the meeting rooms frequently used by the so-called Konoha F4, Hiruzen, Hamura, and Koharu sat quietly waiting. Before long, Danzo walked in. Seeing the serious expressions on his 3 old friends' faces, his brows furrowed. He felt like he was being interrogated as a criminal. What kind of setup was this? Were they dissatisfied with him recently recruiting members from various clans into Root? But he had no choice. His elite Root forces had been nearly wiped out in a previous operation. Hiruzen spoke first. Danzo, do you know what Orochimaru has been doing recently? Has Root been involved in his activities? Danzo sneered. That's a joke, Hiruzen. He's your disciple, yet you come asking me. Just answer honestly. Danzo replied irritably, I don't know. I've been busy rebuilding Root lately, I haven't paid attention to him. Koharu said coldly, Danzo, several disappearance cases in the village recently have all pointed to Orochimaru. He's already suspected of betraying Konoha. And you're still covering for him? Danzo exploded. I'm covering for him? What nonsense are you spouting? He's not my disciple. And back then, it was you people who sent him to Root to monitor me. Now you're saying I'm protecting him. Ridiculous. Hiruzen's gaze locked onto him. Danzo. I'll ask you one last time, were you involved in Orochimaru's actions? Danzo denied it flatly. Absolutely not. You'd better not be. Also, I've heard that Root suffered heavy losses last year, which is why you've been recruiting everywhere under my name. I suggest you stop. Root does not need to be rebuilt. Use your current manpower to handle intelligence work in the shinobi world, that's enough. Monkey, what do you mean by this? Root must be rebuilt. Konoha cannot be without Root's protection. This is an order. You'll regret this. I am the Hokage. Humph. Danzo stormed out, slamming the door. But beneath his furious exterior, he was thinking something else. It seemed Orochimaru had already been exposed. Hiruzen would likely move against his beloved disciple very soon. He needed to return immediately, erase all evidence, and completely sever ties with that snake. He couldn't let the flames reach himself. If he wanted to become Hokage, he absolutely couldn't have the stain of harming comrades, at least not on the surface. Danzo couldn't understand Orochimaru. There were plenty of shinobi and civilians in the world. If he needed experimental subjects, he could simply capture them from outside. Why target people within the village? It was madness. Even back when they secretly restarted the wood release experiments, those children had all been brought in from outside. They had never dared to lay a hand on children within the village. This wasn't about morality, it was about a bottom line that could not be crossed within Konoha. After Danzo left, Hamura spoke. I don't believe he was telling the truth. Koharu added, he's always been like this. We shouldn't have assigned Orochimaru to root in the first place. Danzo's methods are too dark, he's already twisted Orochimaru's thinking. Hiruzen took a drag from his pipe, thinking of his once most beloved disciple. Could Danzo really have influenced Orochimaru? No. He didn't believe so. Orochimaru's own mindset had long since fallen into darkness, he just didn't know when it had happened. Hamura turned to Hiruzen. What should we do now? If the evidence is conclusive, are we really going to deal with Orochimaru? Hiruzen didn't answer. He simply tapped the table 3 times. A masked ANBU appeared instantly in the meeting room. This was his eldest son, who commanded the remaining forces of his personal ANBU unit, and had been investigating Orochimaru's activities recently. Have you confirmed everything? Yes, Hokage-sama. We've identified all of Orochimaru's laboratories, both inside the village and on the outskirts. Where is he now? In a laboratory southwest of the village. He entered this afternoon, and hasn't come out. Good. I'll go personally and see what he's doing. Also inform Gecko Komomi, have him lead his ANBU unit to seal the other laboratories. Yes, sir. After issuing the orders, Hiruzen removed his Hokage robes, revealing the old-style combat attire underneath. Orochimaru was his disciple. He had to handle this himself. If everything proved to be true, then he would clean house. Even if the one he had to eliminate was the disciple he had once cherished the most. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 186, Chapter 186, Orochimaru meets his nemesis. 1452 words. At dusk, after getting off work, Makoto said goodbye to Hayate and Yugao, and walked home together with Yamato. After a year and a half of living together, Yamato had already integrated into the new family, and even his surname in the official records had been changed to Higashino. But even though he had accepted a certain person's identity in his heart, he still refused to call him Nii-san out loud. An honest kid, after being bullied for too long, had turned a bit scheming. On the road, Yamato asked Makoto, your wood release development still hasn't succeeded. No. How could it be that easy? This Kekii Genkai is different from others, it's not just about chakra fusion. But another bloodline development of mine has made some progress. Oh? Did your ice release improve again? Not ice release. If you have it, you have it, what is there to improve? Then why does my wood release have none of the style of the god of shinobi? Yamato grumbled inwardly, then asked, then what new bloodline is it? You want to know? Call me Nii-san once, maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll tell you. Yamato. See? The more Makoto teased him, the more rebellious Yamato became. At that moment, a girl suddenly appeared in front of them, and Yamato subconsciously stepped back. Makoto, oh? Isn't this our senior Anko? What brings you here? Not you too. I'm here to find you. Makoto, sorry, Anko-senpai. If you want to ask me out, you need to queue up and make a reservation first. If you're looking for Yamato, no need, he's not as popular as me. Yamato. Please don't drag me into this kind of thing. Bastard. Who's asking you out? The girl, Anko, was so angry veins popped on her forehead. She corrected, my sensei is looking for you. Oh, you scared me. So it's Orochimaru-senpai looking for me. That's even scarier, okay. Yamato knew who Orochimaru was, and also knew about the recent missing Nin incidents in the village. There were rumors linking them to Orochimaru. He said worriedly, Makoto, do you want me to go with you? No need. Go home and let them know for me. I'll go alone. Don't worry, I'll be fine. All right. Be careful. Hearing their conversation, Anko grew furious. You two bastards, am I really that scary? The two looked at this hot-headed idiot. Yeah, she really didn't know anything. Makoto followed Anko out of Konoha's main district and headed quickly east. So far away. Anko-senpai, you're not actually planning to ambush me together with Orochimaru-senpai, are you? Is there a trap ahead? What nonsense are you talking about? It's not far, we're almost there. I'm not talking nonsense. Don't you know about the recent ninja disappearances in the village? What does that have to do with my sensei? What if it does? That's impossible, absolutely not. Before she could finish, Anko suddenly exploded, literally. What had come was just a shadow clone, and for some reason it dispelled itself. Makoto looked at the small snake at his feet, hissing with its tongue flicking. Following it, he arrived at a hidden underground laboratory. Deep underground, same gloomy style. Compared to what he had seen on the Eastern Front before, this laboratory near Konoha had far more barrier techniques. Konoha's barrier techniques were far superior to Takigakure's, excellent concealment. But if Makoto wanted to find it, he still could. He just couldn't be bothered normally. Walking through a long underground corridor, sensing Anko's chakra, he passed through a wide main chamber and entered a laboratory. He could tell her condition wasn't good, probably why her shadow clone had suddenly dispelled. Inside the dim lab, Anko had already lost consciousness, yet her entire body kept trembling uncontrollably. Makoto stepped forward, pulled away the hand clutching her shoulder, and saw a strange curse mark etched into her skin. The cursed seal of heaven, likely still an incomplete version. Orochimaru-senpai, you're really ruthless. You can even do this to your own beloved student. Don't you know she's always trusted you? No one answered. But from the darkness, several giant snakes suddenly shot out, fangs bared, bodies coiling, trying to restrain him. Makoto grabbed Anko and vanished in a flicker, reappearing in the main hall outside the lab, filled with load-bearing pillars. A figure slowly walked out of the laboratory, voice hoarse, trust has no meaning to me. What a pity. Makoto, I know you're strong. But like me, you lack those enviable bloodlines. One day, you'll reach a limit. So, do you want to further enhance your talent? You mean the curse mark on Anko? Yes. It can grant you a mysterious power, something you've never touched before. Mysterious. Orochimaru-senpai, you mean natural energy, right? Orochimaru's entire recruitment pitch got interrupted. Oh? You actually know. I suppose that's not surprising. You're part of Minato's guard unit, and have interacted with Tsunade. So have you contracted Mount Mayaboku? Or Shikatsu Forest? No. I haven't signed any summoning contract. Then it seems you lack the aptitude for senjutsu. All the more reason you need the curse mark. Makoto pointed at the mark on Anko. And then become a vessel for your reincarnation or revival. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. How do you know that? Of course I sensed it. There's some diluted natural energy inside, plus a backup of your chakra. The spiritual imprint in it is pretty obvious. I doubt you'd leave her a guardian spirit out of affection, judging by her state. She nearly died just now. You can sense natural energy. That kind of thing. I've been able to use it since I was a kid. You can't. Orochimaru felt irritated. His usual calm, calculating mindset cracked. He really wanted to hit someone. So he did. Ninjutsu, formation of 10,000 snakes silk. He slammed his hands down and spewed out a massive swarm of snakes from his mouth. Countless snakes hissed, bodies tangled together, surging toward Makoto. In a confined underground space, this kind of wide-area attack was extremely effective, overwhelming numbers, plus venom everywhere. Orochimaru didn't intend to kill him, just restrain him. Unfortunately, this attack hit Makoto's weakness perfectly. He had trypophobia. That writhing mass of snakes made his scalp crawl. And they came out of someone's mouth. Just thinking about it made it even more disgusting. No wonder he hated mouth-based ninjutsu. Makoto raised his right index finger. Just as the snakes reached him, a red spark appeared at his fingertip, then instantly expanded into a massive shield. Sweeping forward with scorching heat, it passed through the snake swarm. The snakes weren't pushed back. They were incinerated into ash the moment they touched the technique. The entire underground space filled with the smell of roasted snake. Sage Art, Fire Release, One-Horn Inferno Prison. A new variant of the One-Horn series, fused with high-temperature fire release, offense and defense combined. Kill, burn, reduce to ash, one seamless package. The blazing wall stopped just short of Orochimaru. Orochimaru's eyelid twitched. He could feel the extreme heat, far beyond ordinary fire release. If hit, he would die. Just look at the snakes. His voice grew even hoarser. Why stop? You're not the real one. Just a clone. Oh? If I were the real one, would you attack? Not necessarily. Orochimaru-senpai, I'm not some righteous person. I don't have a grudge against you. But for trying to plant a curse mark on me just now, you'll have to pay a price. Heh. Interesting. What do you want? You're cooperating with Danzo, right? Prepare evidence for me. If you keep working together in the future, you'll keep collecting evidence. Evidence? Acting on Minato's behalf to remove obstacles. With your strength, wouldn't it be easier to just kill Danzo directly? You think we're like you? Internal matters aren't external ones. There are rules and procedures. And if I refuse? Makoto smiled. Orochimaru-senpai, you're probably going to defect today, right? If you think you can escape my pursuit, feel free to try. Oh right, almost forgot to tell you. A curse mark like the one on Anko. I can remove it in under 2 seconds. If this is your only chakra backup, you might die. Completely die. Orochimaru. And also, Minato-senpai said the second Hokage developed a technique to summon the dead from the Pure Land. But if I kill someone using certain methods, their soul is completely annihilated. They won't go to the Pure Land. They'll disappear forever. Orochimaru. Damn it. Orochimaru felt like he had just met his natural enemy. Then what's the meaning of pursuing immortality? Well, it still has meaning. At least if you can't beat someone, you can outlive them. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 187, Chapter 187, The One Who Pursues Immortality. 1,502 words. Orochimaru had fled, or rather, his clone had been dispelled. He needed to relay the information he had obtained from Higashino Makoto back to his main body, so that it could make preparations in advance. His ideal was to master the art of immortality, and grasp the endless truths of the world. For that, he could not die. And right now, this was precisely his weakest moment. He had already made a good start, but the time had been too short. The living corpse reincarnation technique was still imperfect, for now, Anko was his only backup. If what Makoto said was true, that he could remove the cursed seal of heaven he had left on Anko, and if something happened to his main body, then everything he had done so far would turn to nothing. What the hell kind of situation was that? Using a shadow clone, Makoto briefly inspected the laboratory, but found nothing particularly noteworthy. This place was merely an unimportant snake den. Afterward, he activated the Flying Thunder God technique, and brought the unconscious Anko to the surface. Spatial temporal ninjutsu really was ridiculously convenient. Once you mastered this kind of technique, as long as you didn't act recklessly, it was extremely hard for anyone to kill you. Ceiling barriers and the like simply couldn't block space-time ninjutsu. Outside, everything was calm and quiet. Even Konohagakure in the distance appeared just as it always did, nothing major seemed to have happened. But beneath that calm surface, nearly the entire ANBU had been mobilized, carrying out orders from the third Hokage. Hiruzen led what remained of his direct ANBU forces toward Orochimaru's laboratory. Gecko Kumomi gathered the new ANBU and began assigning tasks to each squad, ordering them to search the remaining underground experimental bases. Orochimaru was one of the Sannin, powerful and extremely dangerous. He was not someone ordinary ninja could handle. Everyone's orders were clear: avoid direct confrontation. If encountered, immediately send a signal for backup. One or two squads fighting Orochimaru head-on was no different from seeking death. Based on the evidence currently available, that man had long since abandoned any notion of comradeship with Konoha. He wouldn't show mercy. After arranging everything, Kumomi took the Hay-8 squad to rendezvous with Makoto. Yamato had already informed him of what had happened earlier. In Kumomi's judgment, in terms of raw strength, Orochimaru might not even be a match for his disciple, but worry was unavoidable. In battles between ninja, aside from strength, schemes and trickery were often more decisive. He feared that his disciple, being too young, might fall into that snake's trap. Just then, Makoto suddenly appeared beside them, carrying the unconscious Anko. After approaching Konoha, he had sensed the large-scale movements of the ANBU, and immediately rushed over using the Flying Thunder God technique. Kumomi immediately asked, "Makoto, where is Orochimaru?" "That wasn't his main body, just a clone." "I see. How is Anko?" "She's been marked with some kind of curse seal. It looks like she's already past the critical stage, her life isn't in danger. But aside from that, after my examination, it seems part of her memory has been sealed." Kumomi sighed. "That guy Orochimaru. He's really gone this far, hasn't he? Not even sparing his own disciple." "Sensei, what are you all doing here?" Kumomi unfolded a mission map. "We're carrying out the third Hokage's orders, searching these laboratories. Assigning the search of laboratories to the new ANBU. Aren't they afraid something real might be uncovered?" Makoto quickly understood Hiruzen's intention. He pointed in a certain direction. "What about over here? This area is being handled personally by the Hokage." Makoto immediately understood, perhaps that was where Orochimaru's main body was. There was still some bond between master and disciple. Orochimaru allowing his teacher to find his main body might very well have been intentional. He created several shadow clones. One followed Kumomi and the others back to the previous laboratory for a more thorough search. The rest went to support other directions. As for the original body, aside from sending Anko to the hospital, he still had something more important to do. In a laboratory to the southwest, Orochimaru had knocked down two ANBU who attempted to ambush him. After briefly clashing with his teacher, he appeared in a passage behind Hiruzen. Hiruzen made no move. The summoned Monkey King Enma urged anxiously, "Hiruzen, what are you doing? Why aren't you attacking?" Hiruzen still gave no response, only silence. Behind him, Orochimaru let out a sinister smile and sped away from the laboratory. Even someone as rational and survival-driven as him was not entirely devoid of emotion. By using his main body, he had confirmed that his teacher truly couldn't bring himself to kill him. What an inescapable bond between master and disciple. He had seen his teacher's sorrow toward him, and also the growing weakness and lack of principles that came with age. It was the same with him, and the same with Danzo. As expected, humans were too fragile, both in body and in emotion. As he fled, Orochimaru became even more resolute in his chosen path. In terms of the body, he had already modified himself, making it difficult to die from injuries. What remained was to strip away unnecessary human emotions. Once that was done, he would become something close to perfect. From now on, the only thing he needed to do was search for the perfect body. A squad of ANBU lying in ambush approached him from the side. Orochimaru swiftly took them down. Just as he summoned a giant snake to kill the 3 fallen ANBU, an explosion suddenly erupted inside the snake's open mouth, catching him off guard and injuring him. It was the same snake he had used in his earlier battle with his teacher. Somehow, at some point, an explosive tag had been placed inside its mouth. "TCH, that old man, still teaching me a lesson even as I leave," Orochimaru muttered, clutching his wound as he stood up. Without bothering to finish off the downed ANBU, he hurried to escape before reinforcements arrived. After running for a while, Orochimaru suddenly smiled faintly, stopped, and sat down against a tree. In front of him, Makoto descended from the sky like a feather, ignoring gravity, and hovered before him. Using wind release to achieve flight, yet without the slightest leakage of chakra, the trees and grass around him remained completely still, unaffected. This level of absolute control over chakra even made Orochimaru feel envious. Makoto had never kept his self-developed ninjutsu secret, copies were stored in the village, and Orochimaru had naturally studied them. But after reading them, he had only one conclusion: this was something no human could achieve. His judgment was the same as Danzo's: no one could learn it. "What an incomprehensible talent you have, Makoto." Orochimaru-senpai, as someone praised by the third Hokage as a once-in-decades genius, do you also envy others' talent? Of course. No matter what, I'm still just an ordinary person. I can't obtain the innate abilities that bloodline ninja are born with. Ordinary ninja have their limits. But you, Makoto, you seem to have shattered my understanding. I've checked your records. Your parents and ancestors were all ordinary people. So, are you really their child? Or are you even human? I'm human. You don't need to doubt that. Is that so? Then tell me, Makoto, someone with talent beyond my comprehension, how do you view the issue of human lifespan? Don't you think that a mere few decades is far too fragile and short? So you've found a solution, just as I guessed. Replacing bodies repeatedly. More or less. Then what's the price? The price? Compared to eternal life, any price is insignificant, wouldn't you say? That's true. But unfortunately, Orochimaru-senpai, I've already found my own path. Your temptation of immortality is meaningless to me. Orochimaru's eyes lit up. As expected, Makoto, someone as talented as you has also considered the problem of human lifespan. Can you tell me what your path is? There's no need for me to tell you. But I can give you a hint. As far as I know, the sages of the 3 great sage regions have lived for over 1,000 years. Have you never wondered why? Or rather, for someone like you, who seeks eternal life by replacing bodies, wouldn't those sages be the perfect vessels? How interesting. Orochimaru extended his long tongue, and licked his face. So you intend to walk the path of sage power as a human. And Makoto, the sages of the 3 great sage regions are not opponents I can handle. Besides, they live long lives, but their lifespan is not truly eternal. Perhaps. But until the day I reach the end of my own path, I won't be interested in your method. Then I hope you never see that end. I'd also like to witness a path to immortality beyond replacing vessels. How truly exciting. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 188, Chapter 188, Namikaze Minato, time is on my side. 1636 words. Oh? I thought you'd rather see my path fail, so I'd end up making the same choice as you. No. If there were only one path to immortality, that would be far too regrettable. Perhaps. But it's too early to be talking about that. Where's what I asked for? Heh, not early at all. Time passes very quickly. After saying that, Orochimaru was about to open his mouth wide and spit something out. Makoto, familiar with his habits, immediately stopped him. Wait, Orochimaru-senpai, don't. Don't you know the summoning technique? Do you really have to spit it out of your mouth? Orochimaru gave a wicked smile, ignoring Makoto's disgust. He obediently formed hand seals and summoned a scroll. Danzo never leaves behind much solid evidence. This is just a portion I deliberately kept. I hope it's useful to you. After looking through it, Makoto said, this is enough. I won't act against him for now. I believe he'll come looking for you again in the future. When that happens, you know what to do, right, Orochimaru-senpai? You don't need to tell me that. Sure enough, cooperation between two schemers always leaves leverage on both sides. Orochimaru had dirt on Danzo, and naturally, Danzo had dirt on Orochimaru as well. Unfortunately, with Orochimaru's defection, his leverage no longer meant much. At most, Danzo could use the hidden agents Orochimaru left behind in Konoha as a threat. Makoto took the scroll and said, since our cooperation went smoothly, I'll give you a piece of information as a courtesy from a junior. Before the third decided to act against you, he had already informed Jiraiya-senpai. You might run into your old teammate soon. Be careful, don't get killed. If your main body dies, I won't let you revive through Anko's body. Orochimaru didn't care in the slightest. He stood up and left. Before departing, he said with complete confidence, don't worry. That idiot Jiraiya wouldn't be able to kill me. That was true. Jiraiya, like Naruto, didn't care what his best friend's dream was, he only wanted him to return to Konoha and stay by his side. Even if it meant breaking his legs and dragging him back. Kill him. That was absolutely out of the question. Makoto didn't stop Orochimaru from leaving, nor did he ever intend to kill him, even if the man had all but abandoned his humanity. His sense of justice wasn't that strong. Everything he did in the shinobi world was ultimately for himself, to live a brilliant life. The shinobi world was a transcendent world, one with a path to immortality. Just as he had told Orochimaru earlier, thanks to the white natural energy cheat, he had already found that path. Although he was still young, he could vaguely sense that as natural energy continued to reshape his body, his lifespan would become very long, at least not inferior to the sages of the three great holy lands. He didn't know whether he would find a way in the future to extend the lives of his family and friends. If not, then one by one, they were destined to leave him. And at that point, immortality would become a road leading to eternal loneliness. Keeping Orochimaru around at least meant that in the future, he could still see a familiar face. That alone could be considered a kind of comfort. If he didn't want the only familiar face left to be Snake Uncle, or maybe even Snake Aunt, then he would have to work harder to find a solution. It should be possible. After all, Fukasaku and Shima by the side of the Toad Sage, and the three Snake Princesses by the side of the White Snake Sage, had all lived for hundreds of years. If they could do it, there was no reason humans couldn't. In an experimental base outside Konoha's back mountains, one of Makoto's shadow clones was directing ANBU shinobi to rummage through everything, searching for all materials Orochimaru had left behind. Unfortunately, aside from some grotesque experimental subjects and complicated, obscure research records, there was nothing else. These alone were enough to convict Orochimaru, but he had already defected and no longer cared. As for any connection with Danzo, there was basically none. He would never leave such things behind for Konoha. No matter what, Orochimaru and Danzo still needed each other. Until they had fully exploited each other's value, they would protect one another. If Makoto hadn't been someone Orochimaru couldn't deal with, unable to beat him, and unable to escape, he wouldn't have obediently handed over any information. Inside a sealed laboratory, on a metal operating table, a vigorous tree had grown in a bizarre manner. The wild tree had grown recklessly, destroying the surrounding equipment and structure. At its roots, a vague human shape could still be seen. The exposed head still had its mouth opening and closing slowly, in a steady rhythm. But Makoto could sense it clearly, this person was completely dead. The soul had vanished. Only the body's vitality remained abnormally strong, continuously supplying nutrients to the tree. The other ANBU shinobi all felt deeply uncomfortable at the sight. This was seriously sanity damaging. Makoto found a test tube and carefully took tissue samples from the human body, the tree, and the connection between them. He had no interest in conducting experiments, he only wanted references to develop his own wood release. Late at night, all the ANBU involved in the operation brought the gathered materials and records to the Hokage Tower. After flipping through some of the records, Hiruzen frowned deeply. At this moment, he felt a trace of regret for letting Orochimaru go due to a moment of softness. From these materials it was clear, his beloved disciple, the one he still hoped could turn back, had long since abandoned his humanity and fallen completely into darkness. He could no longer be considered human. He should have been eliminated when there was the chance. Komomi asked, "Third Hokage-sama, what should we do now? Orochimaru holds a large number of Konoha's secrets. His defection will pose a serious threat to the village. I order you, pursue him with full force. Before he leaves the land of fire, capture him, or kill him on the spot." Yes. With the order given, the ANBU moved out immediately to hunt Orochimaru. However, half the night had already passed. With Orochimaru's strength, he had long since disappeared without a trace. How could they possibly catch him? Hidden among the crowd, Makoto's shadow clone silently complained in his heart. "You were the one who let him go. Now you're the one trying to capture him. Old man, what exactly are you trying to do?" Inside Konoha, Makoto's original body used Flying Thunder God and appeared outside Minato's house. With such a major incident as Hokage, Minato naturally hadn't gone to sleep. Even Kushina stayed up with him, waiting. Only Naruto had nothing to worry about, he was already fast asleep. After entering, Makoto tossed the materials to Minato. As Minato read through them, his brows furrowed tighter and tighter. "Where's Orochimaru? How did the third handle it? He defected. The third didn't keep him. I think he went soft." Ah. Minato let out a deep sigh. At this moment, even he, the ever-bright son of Konoha, felt dissatisfaction toward the third, increasingly believing him to be too indecisive. How could someone like one of the Sannin be allowed to defect? A person like that held nearly all of Konoha's secrets. Letting him go was inviting disaster upon the village. Kushina complained, "That old man third has really gone senile. If it were me, I'd retire immediately and let you handle it, Minato." Minato smiled helplessly, "Wouldn't that just bring us back to the previous situation? What would be the point?" "Huh? How would it not have a point?" Minato didn't explain, so Makoto spoke instead. "Kushina-sensei, if the Hokage's authority keeps getting divided and divided again, then it really does become meaningless. Whatever you try to do will be restricted." It's that complicated?" "Yes. Even during the third's tenure, this problem already existed. After Minato-senpai became Hokage, it became even more severe. From the third's actions over the past 1 or 2 years, I can see that he wants to solve it. But judging from today's Orochimaru incident, I suspect he may no longer have the resolve." Hamura and Koharu are easier to deal with. The real problem is Shimura Danzo. He, and the root under him, must be completely eliminated. Kushina's sharp mind quickly came up with a solution, then just kill Danzo, right? Is he that strong? With you and Minato together you still can't do it. Minato shook his head, we can. But Kushina. We can't do that. Why not? Makoto explained, because the Hokage must lead by upholding Konoha's rules. After all, we are beneficiaries of that system. If we start using internal assassination like Danzo, that's absolutely unacceptable. The Hokage must act with legitimacy. Whether in his previous life or in this shinobi world, those who resorted to internal assassination never had good endings. Even Raza, when he wanted to kill Pakura, had to use Kirigakure's hand. Kushina picked up the materials and glanced at them. Legitimacy. Aren't these documents evidence? Minato replied, they are. But there's no rush. Let the third handle it himself first. What Danzo has done, I believe he already knows. Having once been Hokage, Minato understood that the most important quality for someone in power was patience. And he was still young, he had plenty of time to wait. In any case, the initiative was in his hands. Given a choice, Minato, by nature, did not wish to tear things apart with his seniors. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 189, Chapter 189, The Aftermath of Orochimaru's Defection. 1,632 words. The night Orochimaru defected did not stir much of a disturbance within Konohagakure. The incident took place in a hidden laboratory on the outskirts of Konoha, and those dispatched were ANBU operatives. Ordinary ninja and civilians were completely unaware, they slept soundly. Minato's family, after learning what had happened, also slept soundly. At this point, what else could be done? Makoto slept just as well. Only at dawn, when the shadow clones that had followed the ANBU dissolved, did they wake him once. Lying in bed, he opened his eyes, received the feedback, then rolled over and went back to sleep. Just as he had expected, the ANBU couldn't even find a trace of Orochimaru. Jiraiya, who had rushed back in haste, hadn't slept all night. Relying on his familiarity with his old friend, he managed to find him, shouting about friendship and bonds as he charged in. But even though Orochimaru was injured, he still failed to bring his companion back. That snake, regardless of his combat strength, was top tier when it came to survival and escape. Just like his skills in abducting naive children, those ability points were basically maxed out. Hiruzen also hadn't slept all night. He remained stationed in the Hokage's office, caught between regret and worry, waiting for updates. As the sun rose, sunlight streamed through the glass and spread across the floor. Smoke curled upward from his pipe, shifting in the light, just like his current state of mind. An ANBU appeared in a body flicker, kneeling on one knee before the desk. Hiruzen gently removed the pipe from his mouth and asked, was he captured? Apologies, Hokage-sama. We were unable to locate the target. I see. Hiruzen inexplicably let out a breath of relief. Perhaps. It was better that Orochimaru had escaped. What is the situation in the village now? Last night, while our focus was on Orochimaru, dozens of ninja within the village also went missing. They were all former subordinates of his. Hiruzen wasn't surprised. His disciple had always had a group of diehard followers within the village. It was only natural they would flee alongside him. Most of those ninja were loners, without family or attachments. He had never expected Orochimaru to defect, so he had never taken any measures against those loyal to him. He just hadn't expected things to escalate to this point. Now, anything he said was meaningless. What about the 3 students he previously led? Hyuga Tatsu and Akato Manabu were completely unaware. However, according to intelligence provided by Higashino Makoto, last night Orochimaru had Anko invite him to the Eastern Laboratory. When Makoto arrived, the Orochimaru he encountered was only a clone. Why did he seek out that child? Orochimaru developed a type of curse seal, which has already been implanted into Anko. He also appeared to attempt the same on Higashino Makoto, but failed. A cursed seal. Hiruzen thought of Orochimaru's obsession with forbidden techniques. What does it do? At present it is unclear. However, it is extremely dangerous. According to Makoto, Anko nearly died at the time, but her condition has now stabilized and she is receiving treatment in the hospital. Not even sparing the life of his own student. That man truly has lost all humanity. If I had known, back then I should have. This ANBU operative was Hiruzen's eldest son. Although he was somewhat dissatisfied with his father's decisions, as both son and subordinate, he couldn't say much. After all, he wasn't like his rebellious younger brother. Hokage-sama, many of Orochimaru's subordinates remain in the village, including his 3 students. What should we do next? Hiruzen thought for a moment. Hand them over to the intelligence division for individual interrogation and screening. See if anything can be extracted, but the methods must not be excessive. After all, they are still comrades of Konoha. Understood. Yes. The ANBU ninja rose to carry out the order. But upon reaching the door, he glanced back at his father, as if he had something more to say. Is there anything else? This time, the ANBU changed his form of address. Father, this morning Musashi came to me and said, Asuma, Asuma. What is he up to now? He left behind a letter and ran away from home. He said he couldn't stand what Konoha has become and decided to go out into the shinobi world to find his own path. Hiruzen. Damn it. Not a single one of these brats gives me any peace. Ever since last year's mission in the land of fields involving the Fuma clan, Sarutobi Asuma had already been harboring such thoughts. Finally, last night, after sensing that something major had happened in the village, and learning from his Jonin leader Sarutobi Musashi that Orochimaru had defected, he could no longer tolerate his old man. You can't even manage your own disciple, and you think you can manage me. The rebellious youth decisively abandoned his comrades, abandoned the girl he admired, and set off on a journey to resolve the confusion in his heart. Father, should we send someone to bring him back? Hiruzen sighed, waving his hand. No need. Let him go. That same day, various rumors began to spread throughout Konoha. But many people didn't believe them. After all, the subject was one of the legendary Sannin, a war hero, and a disciple of the 3rd Hokage. Someone like that would defect. Why? Where's the logic? It sounded like complete nonsense. But as the information was gradually confirmed, everyone quietly shut their mouths. What was there to discuss? Say that the 3rd Hokage failed to discipline his student. Say that Konoha drives away talent. If you talk like that, do you still plan to survive in Konoha? In the end, both ordinary ninja and civilians came to a single conclusion. The higher-up circle is a mess. Konoha did not issue any order forbidding discussion. On the contrary, on the 3rd day, the Hokage's office released an official announcement. Orochimaru, having secretly stolen and researched forbidden techniques, conducted illegal human experiments, violating the code of Konoha shinobi. Furthermore, he attacked fellow ninja of the same village, and was responsible for at least 3 cases of missing ninja squads. When ANBU attempted to apprehend him, he resisted violently and has now defected. Effective immediately, Konoha declares Orochimaru an S-rank missing nin. All Konoha ninja who encounter him are obligated to capture or eliminate him. Any force within the shinobi world that shelters or protects Orochimaru will be regarded by Konohagakure as issuing a provocation and declaration of war. Konoha reserves the right to retaliate. With several days of psychological preparation, this announcement did not cause much reaction within Konoha. Most ninja, regarding the statement that they were obligated to capture or eliminate Orochimaru upon encountering him, simply didn't take it seriously. Go fight one of the Sannin, Orochimaru. Are you kidding? Most people had enough self-awareness not to throw their lives away. If they really encountered Orochimaru, they would simply avoid him from afar. Unlike Konoha's reaction, once this announcement spread outward through various channels, it caused a huge uproar across the entire shinobi world. Orochimaru was no nobody, his reputation was forged by beating down the other great villages. While ninja are not the direct rulers of the world, they are an overwhelming supernatural force that ordinary people cannot challenge. Every move made by the 5 great villages affects war and peace across the world. Orochimaru was among that tiny group standing at the very top, among billions of people. And someone like that defected. Each of the major villages reacted differently. In Tsunagakure, inside the Kazekage's office, Raza, now firmly seated as the 4th Kazekage, looked at the intelligence scroll in his hand and suddenly felt as if he had found a kindred spirit. He had previously felt somewhat guilty about selling Pakura to Kirigakure. Now, that last trace of guilt vanished completely. After all, Konoha did it too. Now he was thinking that, if the opportunity arose, he might try to make contact with Orochimaru. Given Orochimaru's former status in Konoha, he must possess a vast amount of jutsu and intelligence. Raza found that very tempting. Anoki read the report in silence. He only felt that Konoha was being wasteful. Over here, he couldn't even find a suitable successor, while Konoha had so much talent that they were turning into missing nin. What could he even say? He could only sigh inwardly. Hiruzen is incompetent. Konoha is disgraceful. How could they compare to the steadfast unity of our Wagakure's will of stone? Too bad the Sage of 6 Paths doesn't bless us. Kumogakure, on the other hand, didn't show much reaction. They were still in a standoff with Konoha, and hadn't signed a peace treaty yet. Even without Orochimaru stationed on the northern front, they couldn't win against Konoha anyway. His defection didn't significantly impact Konoha's strength. After all, Hiruzen was still there. The yellow flash was still there. And that damn brat who kept putting people in wheelchairs was still alive and well. However, the 4th Raikage did feel a bit of satisfaction. He had a grudge against Orochimaru. According to Kumogakure's intelligence, the rampage of the previous 8 Tails Jinchuriki, Bluebee, had been caused by Orochimaru. This directly led to Bluebee's death. And Bluebee was his cousin. Among the 4 great villages, the one that cared the least about Orochimaru's defection was Kirigakure. These water-playing lunatics were currently causing trouble in the southeastern region of the Land of Fire, while simultaneously indulging in internal strife back home. They had no interest in Konoha's missing nin. Defection. We're better at that than anyone. It happens every day, nothing worth making a fuss over. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 190, Sea Monsters in the Land of Fish. 2052 words. Life is like the ocean, at some point, everyone will stir up a storm in the course of their life. We call that a pivotal moment. The stronger a person is, the more violent the storm they stir up, capable of affecting more people, even forming a tsunami. As for ordinary people, the storms they stir up can only affect a small circle around them. But no matter what, storms do not last forever. There will always come a time when the winds calm and the waves settle. Amid the turmoil of the outside world, the incident of one of Konoha's Sannin, Orochimaru, defecting from the village, finally came to an end and gradually ceased to be a topic of discussion. Time passed in the blink of an eye. More than a month later, it was now mid-June of Konoha year 53. After the initial pursuit resulted in the loss of some ANBU personnel, the 3rd Hokage seemed to have let the matter go. With Orochimaru's strength, sending ordinary ANBU after him would only be sending them to their deaths, nothing but needless casualties. Only Jiraiya stayed briefly in Konoha. After expressing some dissatisfaction to his teacher, he once again disappeared, traveling through the shinobi world, searching for the child of prophecy while also gathering information on his close friend's whereabouts. Unfortunately, the shinobi world was vast. A ninja like Orochimaru, skilled at hiding, would be extremely difficult to locate once he chose to lie low. Orochimaru was a man driven by purpose. Without benefit, he would never waste time causing trouble. Now that he was a free man, he could finally carry out his experiments as he pleased. After Konoha cleared out numerous hidden laboratories outside the village, aside from uncovering Orochimaru's research objectives, they gained no other useful intelligence. Trying to deduce his current hideout from those materials was simply impossible. Inside the Hokage's office, Makoto, who was happily slacking off, was summoned by the third Hokage. Makoto, with your sealing skills and kushinas, have you still not figured out the purpose of the curse mark on Anko? Sorry, Hokage-sama. We're not particularly versed in forbidden techniques. Kushina-sensei, Minato-senpai, and I studied it together and only discovered that the curse mark contains some natural energy. As for what it's used for, we have no idea. I think only Orochimaru himself knows its purpose. Natural energy, HM. Looks like Minato has already begun training in sage arts. Makoto didn't hide it. Yes, Minato-senpai is progressing quite smoothly in learning the sage arts of Mount Myaboku. Hiruzen understood well that sage arts were a powerful asset, but very few could master them. Even his 3 disciples, including himself, had failed. The fact that Minato could learn them meant his strength had grown even further. Learning to refine and use chakra was the dividing line between ordinary people and ninja. Sage arts were another such dividing line. The curse mark on Anko, there's no negative effect on her, right? As long as she doesn't actively stimulate it with chakra, it basically has no effect. On the contrary, the curse mark is passively enhancing her body. You could call that a benefit. At the very least, with Anko-senpai's eating habits, she could eat dumplings and red bean soup all day and not worry about gaining weight. I see. That's reassuring. Makoto, I called you here today not only for this matter, but also because there's a mission I need you to handle. Please leave it to me, Hokage-sama. Good. This mission is a request from the Land of Fish. Their fishermen have recently been encountering massive sea monsters while out at sea, so they've asked Konoha to help eliminate them. Makoto thought for a moment about the location of the Land of Fish and asked, Hokage-sama, aside from eliminating the sea monsters, you must have other objectives, right? Yes. Makoto, you're as sharp as ever. The Land of Fish is just a small island nation, but to its northeast lies the Land of the Sea. According to mission records, during the later stages of the war, and even after it ended, Orochimaru frequently took Anko there on missions. I suspect there may be one of his laboratories in the Land of the Sea. He might even be there right now. So, Hokage-sama, if I encounter Orochimaru himself, what do you want me to do? Bring him back. If that's not possible, then killing him is acceptable as well. Ordinary ninja cannot deal with him. Minato and I cannot act personally. Only you can go. With your strength, I believe you can handle it. No problem, Hokage-sama. Do you need me to specially arrange a team for you? No need. I'll take Hiate's team. At sea, Yamato can be very useful. Hiruzen nodded, having thought of that as well. Ho ho ho, you're right. Yamato was an extremely practical ninja. After all, no one else could clap their hands together and instantly build a large wooden ship. Shipbuilders would definitely want someone like him. Furniture makers and construction developers would too. Not far off the eastern coast of the Land of Fire lay a small island nation, obscure within the shinobi world, but well known among Naruto fans in Makoto's previous life, the Land of Waves. There were many such small island nations in the shinobi world. The Land of Fish was one of them, but within this world, it was far more well known than the Land of Waves. The Land of Fish lay in the distant seas northeast of the Land of Waves, between the southeastern corner of the Land of Hot Water and Kaikawa Island of the Land of Water. From its name alone, one could guess its primary industry. The surrounding waters were rich in silver-scaled mackerel and red-spotted swimming crabs, both exceptionally delicious delicacies, considered top-tier across the shinobi world. These were also the nation's primary export products, and the main source of income for its fishermen. From the land of fish, if one sailed further northeast into the open sea, one would reach the land of the sea. Located between the land of lightning and the land of water, it had a relatively large land area but poor living conditions and few specialties. Its population was small, and it was often used as a refuge by criminals fleeing into the open sea. On land, ninja could move extremely fast. But at sea, unless one wanted to waste chakra running across the water, they had no choice but to travel by boat like ordinary people, and the speed was far from fast. After receiving the mission, Makoto and his team took only half a day to reach a port city on the eastern coast of the Land of Fire. From there they boarded a merchant ship and spent several days at sea before arriving at the Land of Fish. Officials from a coastal fishing town received them and presented fresh local specialties to the ninja from Konoha. Ninja, especially those from major nations, held a high status in the eyes of small countries. No one dared offend them lightly. Otherwise, they might not even know how they died. Makoto and the others had eaten mackerel and crabs before in Konoha, but those were frozen. Now, tasting them fresh, the flavor was indeed extraordinarily delicious. No wonder the daimyo and nobles on the mainland were willing to pay exorbitant prices for preservation and transport. After resting for a night, early the next morning, Makoto's team boarded a government fast boat under the escort of local officials and followed a fishing fleet out into the open sea. Due to the sea monsters, fishermen no longer dared to go out alone. They only went out in groups, so that if attacked, at least someone could provide assistance. The accompanying official was a fair-skinned, short, and chubby man, his complexion starkly contrasting with the sun-darkened, copper-toned skin of the fisherman. He complained to Makoto, "These sea monsters that came out of nowhere have severely affected our catches. Now fishermen don't dare go out unless they gather enough people." Makoto asked, "When did these sea monsters start appearing?" "They've been around for a few years, but back then it was just one or two occasionally, not very strong, so the impact wasn't big. Recently, for some reason, a giant octopus appeared. We have no way to deal with it. So now all fishing trips are organized collectively." "That's right. We have no choice. But some fishermen who urgently need money still go out alone. That's extremely dangerous. If they encounter a sea monster, no one can save them." Very soon, Makoto's group saw just how dangerous it was, and they also encountered the so-called giant octopus. Ahead of the fishing fleet, a lone fishing boat had its bow lifted high into the air. The rear half of the vessel was wrapped tightly by the tentacles of a massive octopus, which was crushing the hull while dragging it underwater. Even more outrageous, this octopus had far too many tentacles. A rough count put it at 20 or 30. Some of the tentacles lacked suction cups. Instead, they crackled with electricity, and at their ends were large mouths filled with dense teeth, like electric eels. These mouths swam through the water, swallowing the fallen fisherman whole. This was the first time Yugao had seen such a creature. Hey, why is that octopus so huge? And why does it have so many tentacles? Why can it generate electricity? What kind of species is that? Hey-8 replied, "I don't know. But I don't think something like this could evolve naturally. It's probably an artificially created organism." Makoto nodded. "Exactly. Someone's summoned beast must have gotten loose. Stop talking, save them first." The four of them leapt off the ship and ran across the surface of the sea. Upon seeing the fleet, the giant octopus immediately abandoned its current prey and swam toward them excitedly. It seemed to possess some intelligence, especially interested in destroying human creations. In the distant fleet, many fishermen watched nervously, their eyes filled with fear. Many of them had already lost friends or relatives to this monster. If even the ninja couldn't deal with it today, they had no idea how they would continue living. The distance between the sea monster and Makoto's team rapidly closed. As the octopus raised a tentacle with a gaping mouth, preparing to swallow the annoying insects before it, Makoto slapped both hands onto the surface of the sea. In an instant, a massive sphere of water enveloped the octopus and lifted it out of the ocean. The water sphere trapped its main body, leaving dozens of tentacles thrashing wildly outside as it struggled. Everyone, attack together, kill it. Yamato quickly formed hand seals. From his right hand extended a thick, sharp wooden spike that rapidly grew. Would release, silent killing binding technique. The sharp wooden spike shot into the water sphere, piercing through the octopus's eye and exiting the back of its head, instantly penetrating its body. From both sides, Heiate and Yugao approached, then leapt high into the air and drew their swords. Wind release, vacuum blade. Several large, razor-sharp wind blades sliced through the air, severing the octopus's tentacles at the roots and turning it into a massive, defenseless lump of flesh. After so much training, the two had successfully mastered the simplified version of Shadowless Sword, Vacuum Blade. However, due to their limited chakra reserves, they couldn't use it frequently. The octopus's vitality was astonishing. Even after Yamato pierced its brain, it continued to struggle wildly. Only then did they realize. Octopuses seemed to have more than one brain. But no matter how many brains it had, Makoto didn't believe it could survive being split in half. He immediately released control over the massive water prison, letting the water and the octopus fall together, while he drew the ninja blade from his back and slashed forward. Sage Art, Wind Release, Shadowless Sword. A massive, nearly invisible blade, discernible only through distortions in the air, cut through the octopus like a hot knife through butter, slicing it cleanly into two halves. A huge amount of tissue and blood rained down, turning the surrounding sea into a surreal painting of red and blue. Strangely enough, two different colors of blood coexisted within its body. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 191, Chapter 191, Catch a Guide. 1,598 words. Ordinary people rarely get to see ninjas in action. Proper ninjas from a hidden village, if they don't have a mission, generally won't interact with civilians outside their village. For the people of the Land of Fish, an island nation with no ninja village, some of them might go their entire lives without ever seeing what a ninja even looks like. Ninjas, though living in the same world as them, had previously only existed in the exaggerated stories their elders told in daily conversation. But today, these fishermen had finally witnessed the terror of ninjas. The thick, fishy stench drifting over from the distance reminded them, this was all real. That octopus sea monster, which they had been completely helpless against, and which had destroyed who knew how many fishing boats and fishermen, had been chopped into mincemeat in just a few moves by the ninja-sama. If those ninjutsu had been used on a human body, it would definitely hurt, right? Quite a few people muttered to themselves in shock. Too amazing, so this is what a ninja is like. We should have asked Ninja-sama for help long ago. Yeah, if we had done it earlier, so many people wouldn't have died. The monster's dead. From now on, we don't have to worry anymore. When Makoto and his team interacted with ordinary people during missions, they had heard this kind of reaction many times, nothing new. That's just how ninjas are. Although they are the absolute dominant force in this world, their total numbers are still tiny compared to the vast population of civilians. And they tend to stay holed up inside their villages, entertaining themselves, rarely wandering outside. So it's only natural for civilians to be shocked the first time they see them. Yugao looked at the foul-smelling sea in front of her and asked, "Is there only this one monster?" Yamato replied, "Probably not. Didn't that official say earlier there were other threats too?" Makoto said, "Forget that for now. Let's save the people first." The four of them immediately stepped onto the water and rushed toward the attacked fishing boat, gathering the remaining fishermen, who had fallen into the sea onto broken floating planks. This fishing boat wasn't small, it had more than a dozen fishermen on board. But in a short time, nearly half of them had already been eaten by the octopus monster. The survivors were still in shock, their faces pale with lingering fear. Some felt lucky to be alive. Others grieved the deaths of those beside them. Those who had been swallowed whole by the monster's tentacles had died instantly. Even if they hadn't been torn apart by the dense rows of teeth, the lightning release on the tentacles had already cooked them through. In any world, when disaster strikes, the powerless are always just that, powerless. Sometimes Makoto thought, if he hadn't been reborn in the ninja world as someone from Konohagakure, he would probably have been just like them, struggling day by day for food, and then someday dying in some unknown corner. The fishing town official directed a fleet of boats closer, pulling the surviving fishermen aboard. The official's attitude was even more respectful than before. "Ninja-sama, thank you very much for eliminating the sea monster for the land of fish." Makoto replied, "No need to be polite. This is our mission. Aside from this octopus monster, are there any other threats in this sea that endanger fishermen?" "Yes, there are, my lord. There's also a group of sharks that roam around. According to fishermen who survived encounters with them, there are about 20 of them. They can spit water bullets, each shot can pierce straight through a wooden fishing boat. All along, it's been this giant octopus and those sharks that pose the biggest threat. The others aren't that dangerous, we can handle them ourselves." Listening to the description, Makoto felt those water bullets sounded like a simplified version of water release, water bullet technique. These sharks, could they be summoning beasts raised by ninja from the land of water? I see. Then take us to the area where these sharks usually appear. Hopefully we can find them quickly and eliminate the threat completely for you. The short, fat official pointed at the blood-stained seawater left behind by the octopus monster. "No need to look, Ninja-sama. Based on past experience, those things will soon smell the blood and come over on their own." "Is that so? Then we'll wait and see." The moon wasn't lying. After a while, Makoto sensed a group of sharks appearing in the distant sea, rushing over in excitement. They were genuinely excited. Chakra could carry a hint of emotion. They were like a group of people who had just awakened their instincts, spotting an unattended supermarket. Not only that, the chakra signatures on them were very obvious. They were either escaped summoning beasts from Kirigakure, or artificially created by someone. All living beings in the ninja world possess chakra, but most, like ordinary humans, have it dormant within their cells, unable to refine or utilize it. Only through training or modification can they qualify as summoning beasts. These sharks were incredibly fast in the water. Makoto immediately said, "They're here. Hurry, get off the boats and fight. Don't let the sharks get close to the fishing fleet." "Yes. ×3. The four of them moved to the spot where the octopus monster had been killed, the shark's destination as well. Logically speaking, with the sea below filled with blood and food, the sharks shouldn't have had any interest in the four people standing on the water's surface. After all, they were motionless and uninjured, ordinary sharks wouldn't consider them targets. But these sharks were different. According to the official and fishermen, they liked attacking humans and human-made objects, just like the octopus monster. They seemed to possess a certain level of intelligence, and even hostility toward humans. Sure enough, after arriving, the sharks immediately shifted targets. Ignoring the sinking octopus corpse entirely, they charged straight at the four of them with clear intent. As they approached, the sharks opened their massive, fong-filled jaws beneath the water's surface and fired out huge water spheres, each about the size of a wash basin, moving as fast as cannonballs. So it really was ninjutsu. These water spheres weren't just seawater, they were attacks formed by chakra condensing seawater. Makoto stopped his teammates who were about to act. "I'll test their power first." He raised both hands forward, forming a defensive ninjutsu in front of them. Sage Art, Earth Release, One-Horn Great Wall. Countless water projectiles slammed into the barrier, producing a rapid series of impacts, but they were completely ineffective, unable to break through. The sharks didn't care. Like a rookie who had just gotten their hands on a gun, their fingers glued to the trigger, they kept firing until they ran out. Though these sharks had some intelligence, it wasn't much. Unlike ninjas, they didn't change tactics when their attacks failed. They simply poured out their energy recklessly. Once their naturally accumulated chakra was exhausted, they switched to close combat, intending to tear apart their prey with their teeth. If every enemy he encountered in the future were like this, Makoto would laugh in his sleep. This was basically suicidal behavior. Move. Makoto spoke lightly. As usual, he pressed both hands onto the water's surface. Any shark that approached was inexplicably lifted out of the sea by currents. Then Hayate and Yugao rushed forward, their blades infused with wind-release chakra, stabbing directly into the shark's brains. Their offensive power was sufficient but their defense was lacking. But it didn't matter, they focused on killing, while defense and aggro control were handled by the strongest support. As for sharks approaching from other directions, Yamato silently formed hand seals and plunged his right hand into the water. Several twisted wood-release branches shot out, skewering the sharks underwater like candied fruit on a stick. Compared to that, wood-release was far more versatile, offense and defense in one, perfect for everyday use. It could even help with environmental greening when idle. The shark group was quickly wiped out. Makoto deliberately left one alive, the one that seemed the smartest, and used water release to restrain it in front of him. The several-meter-long shark was massive and intimidating, its mouth full of blade-like teeth. Unfortunately, trapped in the water prison technique, it looked like a pitiful, helpless girl. Makoto reached out and left a flying thunder god mark on it, then released the technique. Freed, the surviving shark immediately flicked its tail and fled at top speed. Yugao asked curiously, "Captain, what are you planning to do with it?" Makoto explained, "This place is far from Kirigakure. These sharks are probably not summoning beasts raised by them. Like the octopus monster earlier, they may have been created by some organization. I want to investigate, but whether it will return to its lair is another matter." A few days earlier, after receiving the third Hokage's mission, Makoto had already suspected that the sea monsters threatening the land of fish might originate from a summoning island. And there seemed to be a Uzumaki survivor there, he wanted to try finding them. He vaguely remembered that the person had good talent and knew quite a few Uzumaki sealing techniques, which suggested their parents likely held a high status within the Uzumaki clan. But the location of the summoning island was known to very few. The ocean was vast, if he couldn't find it, there wasn't much he could do. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 192, Chapter 192, The Secret Laboratory on Summoning Island. 1,659 words. On the fishing fleet's ship, Makoto said, "The mission you entrusted to Konoha has already been completed. However, we still have other matters to handle, so we may not return to the land of fish for a few more days." Seeing that the hidden danger had been resolved, the fishing town official was overjoyed. "Thank you very much for your help, honored ninja. I will prepare the official completion documents. You can come and collect them later. Then I'll trouble you with that. Also, over the next few days, you can search around and check whether there are any remaining dangers in this sea area. If there are, we'll deal with them all at once when the time comes." "That's wonderful. As expected of Konoha, the strongest ninja village in the world, you've thought of everything so thoroughly." This was precisely why Konoha had a fairly good reputation across the ninja world. Upholding the first Hokage's ideals, while they wouldn't act like naive do-gooders, whenever they saw ordinary people in trouble, they were always willing to lend a hand. After that, Makoto added, "Could I trouble you to find some veteran fishermen for me? I have a few things I'd like to ask." "Of course. Please wait a moment." The official immediately made arrangements and quickly gathered 5 elderly fishermen from the fleet. Makoto asked, "Do any of you know which direction those sea monsters came from?" The 5 men exchanged glances and all shook their heads. One of the old fishermen replied, "About 5 years ago, the fishing grounds we usually worked in occasionally started seeing some strange large fish. Fortunately, they weren't too dangerous. But around half a year ago, those large fish disappeared, and were replaced by groups of sharks that could spray water, as well as octopus-like sea monsters. But no one knows where they came from. I see. Around the land of fish, or perhaps near the northeastern land of sea, are there any islands with lots of large creatures? Sorry, honored ninja. There are none near the land of fish. The land of sea is too far, we rarely go there, so we don't know. Makoto thought for a moment, recalling what he knew about Summoning Island, and finally asked, are there many volcanoes in this sea region? I mean active volcanoes. At this point, another elderly fisherman, after thinking for a moment, replied, there aren't any volcanoes on the islands around the land of fish. But about 40 years ago, I heard from a sailor that in the southern waters of the land of sea, on a certain large island, there was a terrifying volcanic eruption. I heard there were quite a few residents living there originally, but after the eruption, all the survivors moved away. After some explanation from Makoto, the old fisherman pointed out an approximate location on a high-precision ninja map. Having obtained important intelligence, the four of them boarded a wooden boat created by Yamato, bringing along some fresh water and food supplies provided by the officials, and quickly departed. This was the advantage of having Yamato around. Whether you needed a boat or a house, he could just casually craft one on the spot using wood release. The people of the land of fish were completely stunned when they saw someone conjure a wooden boat out of thin air. Ninjutsu, was it really this magical? If that masked guy opened a shipbuilding factory, wouldn't he make a fortune effortlessly? Ninja were jacks of all trades, they had to learn everything. Sailing was nothing to them. Along the way, Hay-8 and the others had no objections to searching for an island with large creatures. If something could create ninja beasts capable of using chakra, then even if the people behind it weren't ninja themselves, the organization must have been founded by ninja. And Orochimaru just happened to enjoy this kind of research. So his laboratory was very likely located on such an island, which didn't conflict with their mission. The reasoning was sound. The only problem was, they had no idea that their captain wasn't actually looking for Orochimaru at all. Yugao asked, hey, Makoto, why are you specifically looking for islands with active volcanoes? How does that relate to our mission? Because the only clue I know about Summoning Island is that it has an active volcano. Of course, Makoto wouldn't say that. Instead, he asked seriously, let me ask you this, if you were to build a large laboratory, aside from funding and equipment, what's the most important thing? Researchers. That's important too, but the most important thing is energy. You need a stable and sufficient power supply, you idiot. If a laboratory wants to remain hidden for a long time, without being discovered, geothermal power generation is an excellent option. Is that so? Hay-8 nodded. Now that you put it that way, it does make sense. Yamato added, I learned something today. So if you can't find a breakthrough from a ninja's perspective, you can analyze it from a civilian infrastructure angle instead. Makoto sighed inwardly, grateful that the ninja world wasn't entirely primitive. Although some rural areas looked archaic, the overall technological foundation of the world wasn't actually backward. The vast ocean stretched endlessly. Even with Makoto using water release and wind release to greatly increase the boat's speed, and occasionally flying up into the sky to scout, it still took the four of them 2 days to reach their destination. Along the way, he never sensed the presence of that shark at all. It seemed that creature wasn't the type to return home, or perhaps it didn't originate from Summoning Island at all, but had wandered over from Kirigakure's waters. In the vast sea lay a fragmented cluster of islands, spaced closely together. At the center on the main island, a mountain occasionally emitted a wisp of black smoke. Flying in the air, Makoto observed the island cluster, and noticed that many of the island edges matched up. Originally, these islands should have been a single landmass. Most likely, a volcanic eruption combined with a powerful earthquake shattered the entire island, creating the current layout. Much of the central island was barren, clearly showing the destructive power of that past eruption. As they steered the wooden boat closer, Hay-8 looked at the giant birds occasionally taking flight within the island cluster and said, this should be the place. It's rare to find such a dense population of large animals elsewhere. At that moment, near the shoreline forest, a massive purple-patterned spider flashed past, but didn't notice the sudden human intruders. As a girl, Yugao was especially afraid of such things. "Hey, did you see that? That spider was way too big, right? It looks really dangerous." Yamato reassured her, "We're ninja, what are you afraid of? These animals just look big. Their strength probably isn't anything special. Otherwise, Kumo ninja would have already come and taken them." "Yugao, you make a very good point, I can't even argue with that." This area was relatively close to the land of lightning. If these creatures were truly powerful, those battle-hungry brutes definitely wouldn't have missed the chance to capture them. After hiding the boat in a concealed location, Makoto descended from the sky. Heiei asked, "Did you find anything? This area is indeed uninhabited, completely barren. There are large summoning beasts everywhere. Only near the central volcano are there human-built structures, and they look like they were constructed in recent years. I think the laboratory must be there. Then let's start gathering intel from there." Under Makoto's lead, the four concealed their presence, avoided the large animals scattered everywhere, and quickly reached the central structure. After a brief investigation, they infiltrated into the interior of the active volcano. The laboratory that produced summoning beasts was built inside a hollowed-out mountain. Dangerous, but it provided an endless supply of geothermal energy for power generation. There weren't many personnel, fewer than 20 in total. Aside from 7 researchers, there were 4 logistics staff responsible for daily needs, and 2 squads of ninja serving as security. These ninja bore no obvious village insignia. Based on their chakra signatures, Makoto judged that their strength was fairly ordinary. From a rock cavern within the mountain above the laboratory, the 4 hid and carefully observed the researchers below. They were gathered around a massive pool, recording and observing something. The pool was filled with an unknown liquid. Inside it lay a gigantic hairless creature of indeterminate species, asleep. Its facial features even showed traces of human resemblance. It was grotesque beyond words, yet radiated a powerful, sinister aura. There were no ethical restrictions in the ninja world. These researchers dared to do anything in the name of study. Makoto sensed that the creature's mental fluctuations were extremely chaotic, filled with primal urges to kill and devour. It could wake up at any moment. Yet the researchers seemed completely unaware. Heiei and the others felt that while the style of this laboratory differed from the one they had previously raided belonging to Orochimaru, what these people were doing was very much in line with his methods. Unfortunately, after half a day of patient observation, they still hadn't seen Orochimaru. Instead, they unexpectedly spotted a girl with striking crimson hair. Yugao pointed below and whispered, hey, that kind of hair color. Is she from Kushina-senpai's clan? Makoto sensed her chakra and replied, judging from her chakra signature, yes. That's unexpected. We didn't find Orochimaru, but we discovered an Uzumaki instead. So, Captain, should we bring her back to Konoha? Look at how she talks with those researchers, their relationship seems quite good. Why would she follow us back to Konoha? Are we supposed to abduct her by force? Then do we just ignore her? Makoto smiled faintly. No. We just wait. These people are about to run into trouble. I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 193, Chapter 193, Rampage of the Ultimate Summoned Beast. 1,530 words. How was Yuzushiogakure destroyed back then? Makoto didn't know. It was old history, and it had nothing to do with his life. There was no reason for him to dig into it out of curiosity, and end up stirring up trouble for himself. The annihilation of the Uzumaki happened very quickly, so quickly that even Konohagakure had no time to send aid before it was over. There was no room for conspiracy theories from Konoha's side. Both Uzumaki Mito and Uzumaki Kushina, the 2 generations of Ninetales Jinchuriki, could attest to that. As for whether the surviving members of the Uzumaki clan held suspicion or resentment toward Konoha, no one knew. In the end, they scattered across the world, hiding their identities and settling down wherever they went. That was why Makoto had told Yugao. Why would they follow you back to Konoha? If Kusagakure hadn't treated Kaori and her daughter like expendable tools, but instead treasured them, they probably wouldn't have wanted to leave either. The same applied to the Uzumaki girl on this summoning island. From what it looked like, she was doing fairly well here. Only when she experienced true despair would she willingly go to Konoha. Fortunately, Makoto didn't need to intervene. What those people were doing right now was nothing short of dancing on the edge of death. If the so-called strongest summoned beast in the pool didn't go berserk, Makoto wouldn't deliberately provoke it to wake up. At most, he would find an opportunity to ask the girl herself what she wanted. No matter how strong he became, Makoto was still someone who respected other people's choices. After instructing Hayate and the others to take turns monitoring the place, Makoto quietly left, wandering through the laboratory and investigating its secrets. He didn't know when the artificially created, strongest summoned beast below would go berserk, but they had time to wait. As ninja, patience was the one thing they never lacked. That night, after finishing his investigation, Makoto returned to the cave where the four of them were hiding. Hayate asked, "Did you find anything useful? Is this Orochimaru's base?" Makoto replied, "From what I've gathered, no. This place belongs to a ninja force within the land of the sea itself. Kumogakure was involved as well. At first, they wanted these people to help them develop powerful and controllable summoned beasts, but since they never achieved results, they gradually gave up." Yugao asked curiously, "No results? The animals outside looked pretty terrifying to me." Makoto shook his head. "Useless. They're just big. Their actual combat power isn't high, and more importantly, they lack intelligence, hard to tame, and they eat a lot. The cost-to-benefit ratio is terrible. Who would want that? What about the thing in the pool below? That's the Land of the Sea's own project. They're trying to create some ultimate strongest summoned beast to fulfill their ridiculous ambitions." Yamato said, "So this has nothing to do with our mission, right? Should we leave?" Makoto replied, "No rush. I can sense that the creature's mental fluctuations are becoming more and more unstable. It could wake up at any moment. Let's wait and see." "All right. But we don't all have to stay here. I'll keep watch, you guys go eat and rest." Makoto inserted a flying thunder god kunai into the cave wall and said, "No need. Staying here risks being discovered. Let's all leave. I can sense what's happening here. If something happens, we'll come back." As it turned out, Makoto was right. At noon on their third day on Summoning Island, the creature in the laboratory pool began to stir violently. Even from outside, Makoto could feel the sudden surge of killing intent and hunger. It was about to wake up. Makoto brought the others with him and instantly teleported into the cave. Below, in the center of the lab, the unknown liquid in the pool was churning violently. The creature's tiny forelimbs looked ridiculous compared to its massive body and seemed useless, but from its abdomen extended a pair of flexible tentacles, rapidly stirring the pool. Panic spread among the laboratory staff. The supervisor shouted, "Control it. Hurry and control it." Two squads of ninja guarding the place stepped forward and stood at the edge of the pool, inserting their hands into slots in the outer wall. Gripping the handles inside, they poured their chakra into the system with all their strength, attempting to suppress the creature. Runic patterns quickly spread across the surface of the pool. But it was useless. They didn't even understand what kind of horror they had created. The creature hadn't even opened its eyes, yet it effortlessly broke through the seal on the water's surface and stood up, letting out a continuous, chilling roar. At the same time, its two tentacles suddenly extended at incredible speed. With a single sweep, they grabbed the two squads of ninja suppressing it, then tossed them straight into its massive mouth. It didn't even chew. It swallowed them whole. The researchers were terrified out of their minds. The supervisor screamed hysterically, "Anoka! Seal it! Hurry and seal it!" The Uzumaki girl, hearing this, knelt at the center of the sealing array beneath the pool. Placing both hands on the designated points, she activated their final control measure. The entire sealing array lit up instantly. With the array's assistance, her chakra transformed into several writhing sealing runes that wrapped toward the creature. It looked somewhat similar to Uzumaki Kushina's adamantine sealing chains, but the effectiveness was worlds apart. Kushina didn't need any pre-arranged sealing array. Her chains could erupt instantly from her body as solid metal links, binding even the strongest tailed beast, Kurama, into complete helplessness. But this girl struggled just to restrain an unknown monster. The rune chains wrapped around the creature couldn't stop its movements at all. Its two tentacles lashed out again, shattering the hope the researchers had just seen. One by one, they followed the same fate as the ninja squads, swallowed whole. Watching her colleagues die one after another, the red-haired Uzumaki girl fell into boundless despair. She was finished. If she continued maintaining the seal, she would only delay the inevitable, she would be eaten sooner or later. If she let go, she would die even faster. A complete dead end. At this moment, she could only offer a helpless prayer, "Help me, someone, anyone, please save me." Makoto and the others observed the situation calmly from the cave above. They didn't intervene. The land of the sea wasn't an ally of Konohagakure. Due to geography, it was far from the mainland and naturally leaned toward the land of lightning. Moreover, people who created such horrifying creatures, things that could threaten Konoha in the future, were better off dead. Even Yugao felt no unnecessary sympathy. If not for Kushina's sake, they wouldn't have bothered with the surviving Uzumaki girl either. Just as the creature was about to break free of the sealing chains, the four of them moved simultaneously, diving down from above. Makoto appeared beside the Uzumaki girl in an instant, scooped her up, and leapt into the air, dodging the creature's tentacles. The tentacles smashed the sealing array to pieces. Seeing its prey escape, the creature roared in fury, lunging out of the pool in an attempt to devour them again. Its mind was nothing but chaos. Driven by instinct and desire, it sought to kill and consume every living thing it saw. That was the path of its evolution. These people had tried to create the ultimate summoned beast through endless devouring and fusion, without ever considering whether they could control it. If it were allowed to continue evolving, it would become a disaster for humanity. The Uzumaki girl hadn't expected her prayer to actually be answered, she had been saved. Opening her eyes, she saw herself being carried through the air. Unfortunately, the man holding her wore a mask, she couldn't see his face or recognize him. The creature's tentacles lashed toward them like lightning. It seemed vindictive, determined to kill whoever had taken its food. Petty thing. Makoto was no ordinary guard ninja or researcher. His reactions were instantaneous, he dodged with a flicker, then tossed the girl down to Hayate and Yugao below. "Keep an eye on her," he said. Then, turning to Yamato, "Horned Owl, wait for the right moment and restrain this big guy." As he spoke, he dodged another attack and formed a technique in his right hand. Senjutsu, Wind Release, Air Disc Slash. A massive wind chakra disc shot forward in a straight line, slicing through the creature's tentacles and cleaving its body clean in half at the waist. But it didn't die. Almost no blood flowed from the severed halves. Instead, countless small tentacles sprouted from the wound, intertwining as they tried to pull the two halves back together. Even the severed tentacles began regenerating. Just as expected. Makoto had already sensed its terrifying vitality, this thing wouldn't be killed by normal means. After all, even Tsunade could survive being cut in half. How could a monster like this be any easier to kill? I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Chapter 194, Chapter 194, Anoka. Don't get me wrong, I just want to go take a look at Konoha and my clan. 1606 words. Yamato seized the opportunity from the side, rapidly forming hand seals with both hands. Several branches sprouted from his right hand, binding the monster tightly like a wrapped dumpling. But he was clearly struggling. "This won't work, Captain. I can't hold it for long. This thing can actually absorb chakra to break ninjutsu." That was simply absurd. In the shinobi world, it had always been wood release that absorbed other people's chakra. Who would have thought that one day there'd be a creature capable of doing the reverse and draining wood release instead? All it showed was the vast gap between Yamato and the first Hokage. If Senju Hashirama were here, he could probably suck this monster dry into jerky in an instant. Time's enough. Makoto flickered forward in a body flicker and appeared before the fallen monster. But at that exact moment, the creature seized the chance. Its tightly shut eyes suddenly snapped open. A powerful yet overly loose and chaotic spiritual force surged out through its massive pitch-black eyes and crashed into Makoto's body. It could use genjutsu. An ordinary ninja would easily fall for such a sudden attack. But against Makoto, whose yin release had been trained to the extreme, it was useless. Genjutsu, rebound. That immense and highly condensed spiritual force, carrying the monster's gift along with it, was sent straight back the way it came, forcing the monster to obediently shut its eyes again. Makoto didn't often use genjutsu in combat, but that didn't mean he was bad at it. On the contrary, because Konoha had a group of Sharingan users who loved genjutsu, he had specifically trained to counter it. Anyone who dared try to ambush him with genjutsu would learn exactly what it meant to face a perfectly well-rounded ninja. With the genjutsu under control, the monster began to settle down. Even its absorption and disruption of wood release slowed, as if it had already given up resisting. But Makoto had no intention of letting it go. If it could be killed, then it absolutely wouldn't be sealed. He crouched slightly, pressing his right hand against the ground. Sealing inscriptions spread out across the surface and crawled over the monster's entire body. Sage Art, Fuinjutsu, Nightmare Bind. After restraining it with sealing techniques, Makoto extended both hands forward, palms open toward the monster. A massive amount of chakra surged out, forming a gigantic spherical cage of flames that completely enveloped it. Sage Art, Fire Release, Inferno Barrier. Compared to One-Horn Inferno Prison, which leaned more toward defense, Fire Release was better suited for offense. By using the high-temperature nature transformation of fire chakra to construct a barrier, one could trap the enemy and burn them alive, finally shaking off Fire Release's long-standing reputation of can't kill anyone. A true one-grab, instant refinement. Control the enemy, kill the enemy, cremate the enemy, scatter the ashes, a full-service package. Everyone who's used it says it's thorough. No one has ever left a bad review after experiencing it. Originally, Makoto had wanted to name it Fire Release, Crematorium, but in the end, he felt it was a bit too considerate and not imposing enough, so he changed it to Inferno Barrier. The massive monster endured triple-layered suppression. Even as the wood release bindings burned away inside the inferno, it still couldn't escape. Amid agonized howls, it was reduced to nothing but ashes. If it could still come back from that, then Makoto would gladly acknowledge it as the strongest when it came to physical vitality. As the barrier dissipated and the heat dispersed, the monster vanished from the shinobi world forever, leaving behind only a layer of black ash on the ground. The Uzumaki girl stood dumbfounded. The ultimate summoned beast they had painstakingly cultivated, the one that slaughtered them like dogs, was just gone. At that moment she felt a deep sense of emptiness. All her efforts up until now had turned into a joke, meaningless. At the same time, her inherently kind nature made her feel a hint of relief. A terrifying, uncontrollable monster like that, if it had escaped, who knew how many people it would have devoured? Maybe it was better that it died. Outside the volcano on the central island, Makoto and Yamato worked together, using earth release to bury everything in the laboratory deep underground. Experiments like this, uncontrollable and harmful, were better off disappearing forever. Otherwise, someone might discover them later and start another round of archaeological-style research. The Uzumaki girl remained indifferent. Nothing mattered anymore. She bowed deeply to the four of them. Thank you for saving me. Truly, thank you. Makoto replied, no need to be polite. What are your plans now? My plans. The girl's eyes were blank. I don't know. Everything I was familiar with was here, and now it's all gone. I know you belong to a ninja organization in the land of sea. Aren't you planning to go back? Everyone here is dead. If I go back, I'll only be suspected and then killed. Your name is Anoka, right? Yes, but how do you know my name? I heard that researcher call you that earlier. Earlier? So you were inside the lab the whole time? Makoto didn't deny it. Yes. The whole time. Thinking of her dead colleagues, Anoka felt a wave of sorrow. Then, why didn't you save them? For you, that should have been easy, right? They were secretly conducting dangerous experiments, and even created an uncontrollable monster like this. Then they got killed by the monster they raised. Isn't that a fitting ending? If we had saved them, do you think they would have stopped? No. They would have just started over, creating something even more terrifying. And when that happens, how many more people would die? Anoka slumped. She knew he was right. Yes, that's true. The experiments were too dangerous. We all deserved to die. So why did you save me? Because you're from the Uzumaki clan. And we are Konoha ninja. As Makoto spoke, he removed his mask, revealing the Konoha forehead protector on his head, openly declaring his identity. He didn't like hiding things in situations like this. Being straightforward was better for everyone. As for what the girl would choose in the end, that was her decision. If she didn't want to go to Konoha, he would respect her choice. He wouldn't force anyone. He wasn't the kind of person who used "it's for your own good" as an excuse to interfere with someone's freedom. The girl forced her gaze away from his handsome face, and looked at the Konoha symbol instead. So you're Konoha ninja. Konoha and the Uzumaki clan, that's a relationship from long ago. So you know about the connection between Konoha and the Uzumaki clan? I do. My parents told me when I was young. But we already abandoned our surname. We're not considered members of the Uzumaki clan anymore. That's understandable. Survivors who've lost their country and ninja village, keeping the surname would only attract more trouble. I met someone like you before in Kizugakure, another Uzumaki who chose to abandon her name. Anoka immediately grew curious and concerned upon hearing about another clansman. And? Where is she now? She, not he, a woman, with a daughter. They weren't living well in the land of grass. After I extended an invitation, they chose to go to Konoha. So, Konoha is planning to rebuild the Uzumaki clan. No. Konoha has no such intention. I just happen to invite any Uzumaki I meet during missions, like I'm doing now with you. If you don't want to go, I won't force it. We'll simply part ways here. Anoka stared at his face. Can I know your name? Konoha ninja, Higashino Makoto. I feel like you're unusually interested in the Uzumaki clan. Makoto smiled slightly. Because my sensei in sealing techniques is from the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Kushina. Sometimes I feel like she probably misses her clansmen. If more of them could live in Konoha like she does, she'd likely be happier. That's why, whenever I meet Uzumaki survivors, I extend an invitation. Anoka lowered her head and said softly, "You're really a good student who thinks for his sensei." Thanks for the compliment. So what's your decision? Anoka thought seriously for a moment. Then she glanced at Makoto again. For some reason, her mind suddenly flashed back to the moment he saved her at the brink of death, when she was lifted into the air. Back then, he had been wearing a mask. But now, in her memory, the mask had disappeared, replaced entirely by his face. Maybe going to Konoha wouldn't be such a bad choice. Yamato, seeing the girl agree, quietly noted something down in his mental notebook. He had learned something. Treat people with sincerity, and you could earn their genuine trust. At the same time, it avoided future trouble caused by lies. This was the proper way people should interact with one another. Unlike his time en route, where Danzo relied on coercion, brainwashing, and curse marks to force control, that only produced a bunch of human-shaped machines. As expected of my elder brother. But I'm absolutely not going to call you Nizan. Hey-8 wasn't surprised by how things turned out. Yugao wasn't either, but she felt that something about the conversation between the two of them was off. Especially when she noticed how this girl named Anoka kept sneaking glances at a certain someone. She instantly sensed a major crisis approaching, like something she cared about was about to be taken from her. Humph. What's so great about red hair? Is it prettier than my purple hair? I will post some extra chapters in Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/TitoViller. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.